So this person that I'm about to cover, if you're watching the clip of this, you'll see just by the title, but I do these live streams, so I like to tease them a little bit. I'm going to cover a clip here from someone who I believe last time I checked, this person claims to be a comedian. So I just want to say, take everything they say with a grain of salt. This whole segment just might be a joke. It's possible. But a very curious set. Now, I'm under the impression that this is a serious political statement with jokes peppered in. But here we have Bill Maher, who made a 9-minute segment about how California is creating trans people. Like, they've got, like, a factory somewhere. Like, there's, like, a fucking factory somewhere in California, and they're, like, using, like, CRISPR. They're, like, gene splicing or something. And they're just, like, mass creating trans people. Like, you know, like, like those infirmaries at the hospitals, like, you know, where they have the room full of babies or whatever. So there's actually a secret CRISPR, like, baby factory that makes all these babies, right? But they make them trans, right? And then what they do is, like, sometimes at night, right, they'll go into the infirmary and they'll commit, like, a post-birth abortion. We were talking about that earlier. Post-birth abortion, right? So they'll take the regular non-trans babies, throw them in the furnace, and then create, like, you know, power supplies or whatever. Remember like, just for context, like, this is, like, this person said this.
Everywhere, the convictions of incinerators. You turn on the light. Think of the incinerators.
So this person was, like, at, like, a fucking thing talking about how we throw babies in incinerators to power lights. So that's what I'm talking about. So anyway, so we steal the babies out of the infirmary. Infirmary? I don't even know how that word is pronounced. But anyway, so we steal them, throw them in the fucking incinerator. Boom, got them. And replace them with the CRISPR gene-spliced trans babies. But this is only in California? Or something. Anyway, let's watch.
And finally, new rule: if something about the human race is changing at a previously unprecedented rate, we have to at least discuss it.
So the premise, all right, so this is theoretically new rule. Like, okay, so this is a segment that Bill Maher does, right? Where he's like, okay, so this is a rule that we should be, this is like his comedy bit or something. Like, we should be, you know, at, like, you know, like, the rule is mind your manners, right? Like, no elbows on the table, right? But new rule, right? You know, no, I don't know. Like, so that's, like, the segment. So he's trying to introduce new rules for society, okay? But the premise is already wrong. Let's watch this again.
And finally, new rule: if something about the human race is changing at a previously unprecedented rate.
So this is already a wrong premise. Because, one, trans people have existed for literally tens of thousands of years. Trans creatures exist in nature. There are transgender animals. So, I don't know, if something is unprecedented, do we have to, now again, Bill Maher calls himself a comedian, so it's possible that this is a joke. The whole thing is just like a satire piece or something. But anyway, so unprecedented, just to define that word, means it's never happened before. Like, for example, we are reaching an unprecedented level of human-caused global warming in this planet based on fossil fuel use, for example. It is an unprecedented level of global warming that's directly attributed to humans, okay? Unprecedented means it has never happened before. So, trans people have existed for tens of thousands of years. Trans people, like, just not even, like, I guess people, right? Animals. There are transgender animals. There are transgender fish. There are transgender, like, bugs. There are right? So, okay. But then also, I really want to tell, before we get into this clip too much, in the 1930s, 90 years ago, right, when the Nazis took power in Germany, literally the first thing they did when it comes to book burning, people love to mention, oh, the Nazis burned books. Oh, they burned books. What books did they burn in the 1930s? Well, if you look up this history, you'll find that the Nazis burned all the books about transgender medicine, about science when it comes to studying how and why trans people exist, how gay people exist, and so on and so forth, right? So I want to be just to be clear, you parroting this, anyone parroting this idea that trans people are a new thing, right? Or gay people are a new thing, they are literally marching in lockstep with Nazi ideology from the 1930s. Okay, I just like it's one to one. I'm not saying that they're like Nazis. I'm just saying on this subject they are Nazis. They are not like Nazis. They are not. They are saying and doing exactly what the Nazis did in the 1930s, and they are doing the bidding of the Nazis. Why did the Nazis burn these books? Because they didn't want future generations to know about trans people and gay people. So when people like Bill Maher do this, right, what they are doing is basically proving that the Nazis were one of the most effective disinformation agents of all time and throughout all of history. Right? So I just want to be very clear. So we're already 6 seconds in. The whole premise is wrong. Let's see how long I can get into this.
We have to at least discuss it. Broken down over time, the LGBT population of America seems to be roughly doubling every generation. According to a recent Gallup poll, less than 1% of Americans born before 1946, that's Joe Biden's generation, identify that way. 2.6% of boomers do, 4.2% of Gen X, 10.5% of millennials, and 20.8% of Gen Z. Which means if we follow this trajectory, we will all be gay in 2054.
Now, my question... Now, first of all, I don't know what the joke is here. Like, I don't... Like, and second of all, imagine... Like, I just want to take you through the mind of a motherfucker here for a second. Okay? Imagine, like, hearing that. Like, it's not even a joke. It's not even a joke. But, like... Imagine hearing that, and then you're like you don't even think. You're acting on instinct, right? Like you're a fucking beast machine, going off of like just reacting to stimuli. You're acting on impulse. So you hear that, and your response is, like imagine like these motherfuckers in the audience. Like there's no punchline, right? Like. Imagine laughing at this, but anyway, okay. Okay.
And then who's going to buy this chair?
We got a visitor?
I'm just saying that when things change this much, this fast, people are allowed to ask, what's up with that? All the babies are in the wrong bodies? Was there a mix-up at the plant, like with Captain Crunch's Oops, All Berries? It wasn't that long ago when adults asked a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? They meant, what profession? In the wake of America about to lose abortion rights, the ACLU recently tweeted a list of those who would be disproportionately harmed by this. You would think women might top that list? No, wasn't even on the list. Second on the list was LGBT. Really? Abortion rights affects gay and trans people more than, breeders? I'm happy for LGBT folks that we now live in an age where they can live their authentic lives openly. And we should always be mindful of respecting and protecting. But someone needs to say it. Not everything's about you. And it's okay to ask questions about something that's very new and involves children. The answer can't always be that anyone from a marginalized community is automatically right, trump card, mic drop, end of discussion. Because we're literally experimenting on children. Maybe that's why Sweden and Finland have...
So, okay, I want to stop it here just for the experimenting on children thing. Now, earlier I looked at the history of left-handedness. But that's just a little fun thing. But experimenting on children, that sounds serious, right? Why is it that Bill Maher doesn't care about experimenting on children when it comes to people drinking poisoned water that has lead in it, right? And then that slows their development down and or kills them, but it can slow their development down. That's experimenting on children. Feeding kids McDonald's, that's experimenting on children. This is unprecedented, right? Before the 1950s, fast food really didn't exist throughout the entirety of human history. Think about it. This is a mass child experiment. Like, now trans people have existed for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. I don't know about the history of transgender animals before that, but I know that there are transgender animals in nature now, so it's possible transgender creatures have existed for a very, very long time, potentially millions of years. McDonald's and fast food, not even 100 years, right? So if we want to talk about child experimentation, let's talk about something like fast food, sugary cereals. Let's talk about like feeding kids fast food and sugar every single day. Or, right? Or, okay, I got hair on my face. Let's think about all kinds of drugs, right? Like when chemotherapy was first introduced, right? Were people like, oh my God, we're experimenting on children because these children have cancer and we're trying to treat their cancer. And now this is child experimentation. Like, obviously, this is dumb. Like, this, and then also, Sweden ends practice of prescribing puberty blockers to minors. Okay, and Sweden passed a right-wing law. Okay. And, like, okay.
Stop giving puberty blockers to kids because we just don't know much about the long-term effects. Although common sense should tell you that when you reverse the course of raging hormones, there's going to be problems. We do know it hinders the development of bone density, which is kind of important if you like having a skeleton.
So, this study that's being referred to is based on the hypothetical, okay, that if you were to put someone on puberty blockers literally forever, that would happen. But that's not how trans stuff works. You give someone, a kid, puberty blockers for a couple months, maybe a year, basically to delay the puberty from taking hold on their body for long enough for them to make this decision. That's the point. It's to run out the clock so that they can make more time thinking about this decision. Like, if you were to give puberty blockers to someone who's 10 and then have them be on that for their entire life with no hormones, that could result in something a little silly. But the point is, puberty blockers are given, right? And then it's decided, okay, I want to take cross-sex hormones, right? I want to transition, right? And then you go through the puberty related to that hormone, right? Or you realize, okay, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I'll, whatever, and I'm fine. And then you get off of the puberty blockers, and then whatever it is that your body naturally produces would take hold. So again, this is not a thing, but okay.
Fertility and the ability to have an orgasm seem also to be affected. This isn't just a lifestyle decision, it's medical. Weighing trade-offs is not bigotry.
Again, feeding children fast food is also medical. I know. I'm a child, I'm a baby raised on fast food and ice cream, and I have had to deal with eating disorders for most, if not all, of my life, and I probably will have to deal with eating disorders for all of my life, right? I've had extreme health issues when I was a kid and as an adult because of eating fast food all the time because my parents did not know how to feed me a proper diet, right? So, but where's Bill Maher talking about the mass experimentation of feeding children hamburgers every day? Anyone going to talk about that?
Yet when a book questioning the sudden uptick in transitioning children was released, a trans lawyer with the ACLU named Chase Strangio tweeted, "Stopping the circulation of this book and these ideas is 100% a hill I will die on." How very civil liberties of him. Chase, by the way, has just been named one of the grand marshals of this year's New York City Pride March, along with...
So I just want to ask, why is Bill Maher like singling out one trans person here? Like, this is really strange. Like, oh, this random trans guy is evil or something. Like, what? Like, again, would you say that Mein Kampf should be publicly available to everyone without the context that, I don't know, Adolf Hitler committed a fucking genocide known as the Holocaust? Like, if you just read Mein Kampf, you don't know anything about Hitler, and they go, oh, there's some good ideas in here. That's probably a bad thing, right? Wouldn't you want people to know about the context of Adolf Hitler? And how, oh yeah, this guy's ideas literally led to a fucking Holocaust. So, I'm just saying, like, what?
3 other trans people and a lesbian. Huh, what's missing here? Oh, right, a gay man.
Wait, okay, so there's 3 trans people, quote, and a lesbian. What's missing is a gay man. How do you know that of the 3 trans people, how do you know that none of them are gay? I don't know what Chase's sexuality is. How do you know Chase isn't gay? What? Like, what?
That's where we are now. Gay men aren't hip enough for the gay pride parade.
What? But there's no proof for that. There's no evidence.
Compared to trans, gay is practically cis, and cis is practically Mormon.
Okay. So again, this joke doesn't make any sense. Gay is practically cis. What? Cisgender means you are not trans. Cis is the opposite of trans. If you are trans, right, it means you are transitioning. You are changing gender. If you are cisgender, you are not changing gender. So the idea that, like, gay people being cisgender is a joke or a punchline, there are a lot of gay people that are cisgender. What? Like, what? It just doesn't make any sense.
And this is a phenomenon we need to take into account when we look at this issue. Yes, part of the rise in LGBT numbers is from people feeling free enough to tell it to a pollster, and that's all to the good. But some of it is, it's trendy. Penis equals man? Okay, boomer. Remember, the prime directive of every teen is anything to shock and challenge the squares who brought you up. It's why nobody gets a nose ring at 56. And if you haven't noticed that with kids, doing something for the likes is more important than their own genitals, you haven't been paying attention. Dr. Erica Anderson is a prominent 71-year-old clinical psychologist who is herself transgender and who now says, I think it's gone too far. The LA Times summarizes...
Okay, so I think it's gone too far? What is it? Like, again, these people are just making up words. They're making things up to get mad about. My dog is sitting on my foot right now. But, like, it's going too far. What is it? It is whatever the person reading that or saying that or, like, you know, is whatever it's in their imagination, right? So Erica Anderson, I don't know who this person is, right? They have their own unique definition of what it is. Bill Maher has a different definition of what it is. It is never defined, right? And then everyone watching this clip is going to have their own definition of what it is. Now, so far in the 5 minutes that I've watched of this, almost all of the, like, stated claims of fact are just wrong. Like, they're scientifically wrong, they're biologically wrong, they're historically wrong. He's just wrong on everything, right? So if his idea of what it is founded upon lies and Nazi ideology, I have a question. Maybe he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking. Is that possible? Okay.
She's come to believe that some children identifying as trans are falling under the influence of their peers and social media. If you attend a small dinner party of typically very liberal, upper-income Angelenos, it is not uncommon to hear parents who each have a trans kid having a conversation about that. What are the odds of that happening in Youngstown, Ohio? If this spike in trans children is all natural, why is it regional? Either Ohio is...
This is so stupid. Why is it regional? Ohio is a state that's passing legislation right, that limits trans people's right to exist in society, right? A lot of these red states are limiting trans people's rights to even go to the doctor. Alabama made it a felony for a doctor to do any health care for trans people. So maybe, just maybe, if there is a high likelihood that either, like, one, you won't even get the care you need anyway, or two, if you identify as something openly, that you'll get bullied or killed or murdered or, you know, whatever, right? Right? The amount of people that die from hate crimes in the trans community is a shockingly large percentage of trans people, right? So, like, this is a duh, right? Like, I remember, now I know Bill Maher is a proud atheist. I remember, right, identifying as an atheist in high school and getting a lot of pushback. Getting a lot of people saying I'm a Satan worshiper, I'm evil, I'm a demon, all this and that. Now again, if I cared about what they thought, maybe I wouldn't have been open about being an atheist when I was in high school, right? It's possible maybe that depending on how your community would provide backlash, that people might keep these things a secret. Now again, what's also very strange is that Bill Maher acknowledges this earlier in this segment. He says, oh, people are more comfortable, when he was doing the whole 100% gay joke, he said people are more comfortable saying that they're gay now than they ever have been. So, in this very segment, Bill Maher from 5 minutes ago debunked Bill Maher from this moment in time. So Bill Maher is this segment is so incoherent that it doesn't even make any sense. Like he debunks his own arguments.
Naming them, or California is creating them. It's like that day we suddenly all needed bottled water all the time. If we can't admit that in certain enclaves there is some level of trendiness to the idea of being anything other than straight, then this is not a serious science-based discussion. It's a blow being struck in the culture wars.
So, okay, culture wars. Like this idea that it's trendy. Like, one, it has to acknowledge that, like, it's built in that being trendy makes it bad, right? But, like, also, if people want to experiment with their gender, and then they go, like, oh, this isn't for me, what's the problem with that? Like, if someone who's born a man, right, wants to go to, like, their 8th grade class wearing a skirt, just, you know, just for fun, just to try it out, right? What's the problem with that? Like, there's no, like, okay, it's trendy. Let's assume for a second it's actually trendy or whatever. Where is the evidence or proof that makes it bad? Like, there is none, right? But okay, let's go on.
Using children as cannon fodder.
What?
I don't understand parents who won't let their 9-year-old walk to the corner without a helmet, an EpiPen, and a GPS tracker. And God forbid their lips touch dairy, but...
Like, I don't, like, what does this... This is just, like, boomer shit. Like, back in my day, you used to go get ice cream at the goddamn... Like, what? Like, okay. And?
But hormone blockers and genital surgery, fine. Talk about a nut allergy.
So, first of all, genital surgery, quote unquote, does not happen to kids. And again, as I've already said, hormone blockers is not like, oh, we're going to give a 6-year-old hormone blockers and then that's it. And then they're going to grow up to be 30 and then they're going to be deformed. That doesn't happen? So, what? So again, like, every statement that he's using here for his speech is verifiably, provably false. It's all wrong. And then also, he is debunking his own arguments. Over the course of a 9-minute speech, he has debunked himself several times. So, what? What? Who is this fucking, like, loser fucking bitch, by the way?
I guess penises are gross now, but one might come in handy later on. And if you're a man who wants to experience life without a pair of balls, you do not have to get surgery. You can get married. I kid. Oh, we joke. And never forget, children are impressionable and very, very stupid. Kids don't know why mom drinks every day or why dad has 2 cell phones. Maybe the boy who thinks he's a girl is just gay, or whatever Frasier was. Maybe the girl who hates girly stuff just needs to learn that being female doesn't mean you have to act like a Kardashian.
So, okay. Like Bill Maher is presenting this as if this is like, whoa, I've cracked the code. Tomboys, maybe they should exist. So, okay, but again, this goes back into the he's debunking himself, right? Like, he's debunking his own argument because earlier he was crying that more people are experimenting with their sexuality and gender, and now he's saying people should experiment with their sexuality and gender. Maybe people should. Maybe boys should wear skirts and girls should play with fucking like trucks and shit. But that's literally what you like. This is like such an incoherent series of words. Could you find, like, just out of curiosity, right, if anyone watches my show or any of my clips, could you find a 10-minute period where I have debunked myself several times within the same 10-minute period? Like, how do people think like this? Like, how do you write this out? Like, because he wrote this out, he's reading off a teleprompter, right? Like, he's got like images selected for his jokes, right? So he is obviously well rehearsed. How do you write all this down, then reread it, and not realize that this is the most incoherent garbage on planet Earth? That's what's fascinating to me. Like, that this is scripted. This is fucking scripted. Like, I get it if someone's improvising and they've never really thought about something before, maybe, right, it makes sense that they're incoherent. This is scripted. This guy wrote all of this down and was like, and then reread it, and then shared it with a whole team of writers, and no one was like, hey, Bill, this part kind of contradicts this part. These are both you're arguing for the exact opposite thing. No one said that? He's got like a writing team of yes men? Like, what? Like, what? Like, that's fascinating. I mean, that is truly impressive, I must say. That part right there.
Maybe childhood makes you sad sometimes, and there are other solutions besides hand me the dick saw. And look, I'm sure the vast majority of parents do not take this lightly, and that it's very hard to know when something is real or just a phase. And I understand being trans is different, it's innate. But kids do also have phases. They're kids, it's all phases. The dinosaur phase, the Hello Kitty phase. One day they want to be an astronaut, the next day you can't get them to leave their room. Gender fluid, kids are fluid about everything. If kids knew what they wanted to be at age 8, the world would be filled with cowboys and princesses.
So once again, literally, not even within a 10-minute span, within a 45-second span, he's like, oh, maybe girls should play with trucks or whatever. Maybe they should just experiment with their whatever. Now he's like, oh, kids can't be gender fluid. Within 45 seconds, this guy is contradicting himself. This is like the most incoherent boomer rant I've ever heard. Like your fucking drunk uncle who's had like 6 beers too many, right, at the fucking, like, you know, whatever wedding barbecue you're at, like, you know, anniversary barbecue or some shit, you know, like your, you know, fucking 3-year-old's birthday, and you invite the drunk uncle over. That guy would probably be more coherent than this fucking shit. And then again, I want to remind you all that this is scripted. Like, this was written out. This was wrote out. Like, multiple people, a team of writers wrote this, worked on it, crafted it, and no one realized, oh, wait, we just contradicted ourselves within a 45-second time span. Shit. Well, let's just, like, reword this. What?
I wanted to be a pirate. Thank God nobody took me seriously and scheduled me for eye removal and peg leg surgery.
So, somehow I managed to get through that whole thing. I'm impressed with myself. But, like, what the fuck? Now, again, it's possible that Bill Maher is a comedian. Like, this whole thing is a joke. But, like, first of all, okay, but where's the joke? Second of all, this isn't funny. Third of all, like, you contradict yourself, like, at least 3 times. I documented at least 3 contradictions. There might be more if I were to, like, go over this with a more fine-tooth comb. Because I don't know about, like, Chase's, like, group in the Pride March or whatever. I don't know their details, right? So that could be another contradiction. But this is just fascinating. Like, and then people, like, on Twitter are talking about this. It's like, oh, Bill Maher is saying Bill Maher is speaking truth to the authoritarian woke left. Oh. What? These motherfuckers are dumb as hell. I mean, again, like, boomers, we need a new rule. How about this? If you are crying about a minority group, and you are not a member of that minority group, and you are trying to restrict access to minority groups' rights, or try to make it harder for that minority group to live just peacefully, new rule. You should probably retire? How about that? Jesus Christ. I mean, like, this shit's embarrassing. I mean, it's just, it's the pinnacle of cringe. And, you know, I just want to say, I don't even know what to say. This guy's just dumb as hell. But anyway, there you go. That's my Bill Maher segment. 30 minutes down the fucking drain. Jesus. So